Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and in today's video I'm continuing my Power Apps Hidden Gem series. But as you can see, I'm calling this as a Power Platform Hidden Gem series because this is a special one. This is a special for all the administrative features I'm going to talk about. So over here, I'm actually going to talk about 7 different features that every Power Platform admin needs to know. And these are the basic essentials that need to be done and prepped in your Power Platform environment in order for all your citizen developers to be successful. So now that you have a good idea what I'm going to do, let's jump into that. Okay, so as you can see, I'm going to talk about all of these 7 items over here, and I'm doing that in a very specific order for a very specific reason. So let's talk about the DLP first. The DLP, I recommend people that you just keep it simple. You keep it simple by actually creating 2 different sections. One is the Microsoft connectors and the other one is the non-Microsoft connectors. And that really makes things a lot easier. So let me actually show you what that means. I'm going to get out of this, and I've logged into my Power Apps over here. It is important that everything I talk about as far as making these changes, you either do it as a global admin or you do it as a Power Apps admin. These are the 2 necessary roles that you need, either one of them, to do all these changes that I'm going to talk about. So when I've logged in over here, I've logged into my Power Apps. I've gotten 2 environments over here. So let's just go to my default one. And in my default, when I come in, I go to Settings and I go to Admin Center. And then when I go to the Admin Center, I come into the Admin Center over here and I click on Data Policies. So when I come to the Data Policies, I've already got one created, and I'll show you what that is. And that's the one over here. It's the default one. It was created by me, the Power Platform admin. My name is Megan over here. I've logged in. And as you can see, when I click on it, that I've kept it for all environments. I said applied to all the environments. And as you can go over here to the continue, you'll see that I've created all the business data only. I've kept that as the Microsoft ones, plus a few approved by my company. And then the other ones are all non-Microsoft. So for some of you who must be seeing these policies for the first time, it's like, Daniel, this is a little confusing. And yes, it is confusing, but the best thing to explain it is actually this sentence right over here. It says, users will be prevented from creating flows and apps that combine connectors from business data only and the non-business data allowed. What this means is that as long as your apps, your connectors, your apps and flows have connectors that are all in this one category, it'll work. As long as your apps and connectors have everything that falls in this category, it'll work. But if your apps and flows has, say, one set of connectors over here, and the other and the other connectors are in this section over here, then the 2 are not going to be able to talk to each other. That is how this data policy works over here. So it's very important that you understand that. And again, coming back to what I said, is keep it very simple. Just put them in 2 separate categories. And the one that I work with is I go ahead and put them as Microsoft versus non-Microsoft. And as you must have seen, I've got a few anomalies over here. Twilio is over here because that's an approved product. Button is over there because that's also an approved product. So I went ahead and put that in the business side of it. And then all the other ones that I've not used, and they're non-Microsoft ones, I know that my company doesn't need them for now. I'll go ahead and use it. Now, having said that, in the future, you might have a need. Say a good example is your communication department is going to start putting in some feed to social media, and they've got either custom connectors or they're going to use the Twitter connect over there. In those scenarios, create another environment and create a DLP or a policy tied just to that environment over there, and you'll be good to go. Again, so this is a very simple one over here, which is to do the DLP, and that's the first thing you want to do. Is you want to keep that data as secure as possible, and that's the first thing that you want to do. That's why I kept that on the top category over here. All right, so let's go now to the second piece over here, and the second piece is the access to create environments. So what happens is, by default, everybody has access to create environments over there, and they can create production ones or they can create trial ones. But what I've said is that for now, go ahead and give only admins access to that, because it really helps to maintain the capacity planning. And what the capacity planning is, I'll talk a little bit more later on. But that's the only thing, is that you've got very limited capacity, very limited data allowed for your Power Apps. I mean, obviously you can go and buy more, but out of the box, this is all the capacity that you have. And I'm not saying that admins should interfere with the citizen developers to build their apps. What I'm saying is that admins should actually help the citizen developers plan how much data capacity is going to be used. And so therefore, initially, the admins should only have access to create these environments. And I'll show you how I do that. So I'm going to come back to my Power Apps over here. And again, when I come to the home, I went ahead and clicked on Admin Center. That brought me back over here. But in Admin Center, go back and click on Settings. And when you do that, these are the settings that are available out of the box over here. And as you can see, everyone has access to create a production environment, and everybody has access to create a trial environment. Now, what I recommend is go ahead and specify only to the admins. But over here, I've seen sometimes people, give a little bit of, flexibility to the people, the end users or the power makers. And they say that, I'll give them access to create the trial environments. And the trial environments can only be for 30 days. So after 30 days, they have to go ahead and delete that. So that can also work for you, giving everyone access to trial environments. But again, from the capacity planning standpoint, and also just to make sure that everything is secure and all the permissions are good, me as a Power Apps admin, this is what I do, is I go ahead and set the settings over there, and I go in the settings, I make sure that admins are the only ones who can do production and trial over there. So I'm going to go ahead and save that, and once it is saved, it says setting was saved successfully. So that was the second thing, which was access to the create environments. So let's now talk about the third one, which is creating security groups. Now, creating security groups is a very important one. In fact, the security groups and the security roles are the two things that we'll spend some time on. So what the security groups does is it actually gives me flexibility to make the permissions really granular. What I'm able to do is I'm able to now, using security groups, give a set of users access to a very specific environment. And then I can also take it one step further to make the permissions granular, is I can only, in that environment, I can give very specific people access to that app. And I do all of this using security groups over here. So these are Office 365 security groups. So let me actually show you how I've done that as well. So I come over here to my Power Apps, and in the Power Apps, I'm actually going to go now into the Admin Center. I'm going to open up the Admin Center. Now, I'm just a Power Platform admin, so I don't have all the global admin level access, but at least I have enough access to go in and see all the stuff. So here, in groups, what I've done is I've gone ahead and created two security groups. One security group, I call that as Power Apps _UA_SG. SG is for security groups. And what the SG does is that everybody who has access to that is able to go and access, everybody who's part of the security group is able to go ahead and access the Power Apps UAT environment. That's how I've done that. The second security group, I've gone ahead and done that such that people in this security group, all the users who are in the security group, they have access to that very specific app, and I call that app as Test CDS app. They are the only ones who will be able to access that app. So now that I've seen that, I can actually go and click on it, in the Power Apps UAT. There's a whole bunch of few members over here, and this is actually an important thing I want you to know, that this group gives people access to that UAT environment. There are three members over there. There is Deborah, there's Lee, and then there's Diego. Keep that in mind, Deborah, Lee, and Diego. Now the second group, which is for the one that I'm going to use, where users have access to that app, in there, there's only one user. There's Deborah, who's the owner, but Diego is the only one. So remember, Lee and Diego have access to the UAT environment, but Diego is the only one who has access to that that app over there. And I'm doing that all based on these security groups. So kind of keep that in mind, because in the next section over here, which we're going to go to, we're going to talk about security roles and the combination of the security roles with these groups work over here. So let me actually kind of jump in and even show you how I've done that, at least how I've used the security groups. So what I did was I went to my Power Apps section over here, again, back to the Admin Center, which I click on that, and it takes me over here, and then actually it takes me over here. Cancel out of that because we already did that. Now in the environments, when I come over here, it shows me the two environments. All you want to do is you want to just click on it. You don't want to click on it and click on settings or click on these three dots, ellipses. You just click on it. And when you do that, it takes you to this place over here, and then you click on edit. And when I click on edit, this is where I'm able to go ahead and apply that security group. Remember, this is the security group which I'm giving, which people in this group are able to access that environment. Remember, there were three over there. There was the admin, and then there was Diego and Lee. So now, in fact, when I click over here, you can see that it's very user-friendly. You can actually go and search all the people who have access, and they can come in and access that over here. So it's pretty user-friendly. Okay, gone ahead and done that. The next thing that I've done is I can also now go to the app, and I'll go over here. I've come over here in the app, on the UAT environment. This is the app that I have. In fact, I can click over here. In the app on these more commands, these 3 dots or these ellipses, so I click on that and I click on share. In the share, there is the Power Apps UAT test CDS app underscore SG. That's the security group I did. So I'm using this security group over here to give people access to that app. So remember, 2 levels of granular security. Level 1, access the environment using an Office 365 security group. Level 2 was going ahead and using another Office 365 security group tied directly to that single app over there. And I'll demonstrate that to you, but I'm going to wait till we talk about the security roles. So in the security roles, what I'm going to show is I've gone ahead and leveraged security roles for these things over here. One of the key things is now with the security roles, I can make sure that when person has access to the app, they only had read and write levels to that app, including the CDS entities over there. What happens is once I'm able to do that, I go ahead and create this access level. People or the users are only able to read and write over there. They cannot create any apps. They cannot go create any flows. They can't even create any entities. But they're able to create this one more thing. And that creation is they're able to create connectors. Now I know when I've said that to other people, they've just thrown their arms up in the air and they've said, oh, whoa, wait a minute. They're able to create connectors. That means they have access to all the data. I was like, slow down. Let's think about this. All they have is access to the connectors, which they need because that connector is connecting to the data and they need to read and write data over there. But that's all they have access to. They can't create an app to write data to it or read data to it. They can't even create a flow to go ahead and pull data to it. Anything like that. They're not able to do that. So people having access to the connector is not a security threat because all they're able to do is they're able to have access to that the connectors, and only the connectors that are having access in connectors that are tied to the app. They don't see all the connectors in the environments, only those connectors tied to the app, and they're not able to do anything else with it except for the fact that you use the app. Nothing else can be done with that connector. So initially you might be a little alarmed saying that, oh, this is a security issue and they can see connectors. But if you actually think it through, which is what we did right now, 2 important things. They only have access to the connectors tied to that app, not all the connectors in the environment. And second thing is they can't do anything with that connector. They can't even create their own app or their own flow to that connector. So they can't really steal any data in their own methods. They can all they can do is use that app over there. So it's really not that bad. Now that I've said that, plus previously we just talked about the Office 365 groups, let me actually demonstrate that to you. So a great example I'm going to do is I'm actually going to log in as the 2 people that I talked about. Now let's think about that really quick. Diego was the one who was part of that security group, which was made specifically for that app. All right. Now in that app, for Diego, I've gone ahead and created a very specific security group as well. And it's not for Diego; it's actually for that app. So let me even show you what that is. So I come back to our Power Apps place over here, and in our Power Apps now I go back to the Admin Center, the Power Platform Admin Center. When I come over here to the Power Apps, I click on the Power Apps. Actually, right over here, I'm clicking on Settings. And then Settings takes me to 2 things. I can go ahead and see on Users and Permissions, and I click on Security Roles. So when I click on Security Roles, that's where I can go ahead and create my own security role tied to that app. And so I've gone ahead and done that as UAT test CDS app role. And in this case, the reason I didn't put a Power Apps prefix is because this role is already inside Power Apps. We already know that this is related to Power Apps. The security group was in Office 365, and over there I need to know if this security group was Power Apps. But this role is already inside Power Apps, that's why I didn't put in the Power Apps prefix. So now when I go ahead and click on this role over here, you can see that I've actually added mostly read for everything because I need to be able to read. The only things that I've added as write is for the 2 entities, and these are the 2 entities that I'm writing data back to. That's for the Power App side over here. I want to pause because there might be some SQL users or SharePoint, especially SharePoint users, or they might say that, do I need to do this over here, or do I just need to make sure the users have access to the list? And it's the second option that you said. In your case, it's just for the SharePoint people. You just need to make sure the users have access to that list, and then that just takes care of their permissions. You don't have to do all of this. This is purely from a CDS standpoint. the security role over here. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done this, created this role over here. Now what I did is I go back and I will show you my users. So in my users, the first one, Diego, when I click on Diego, actually I don't want to do all that, I just select Diego and I click on manage roles. Diego has only two roles, is the common data service user, because he is a user, and then that customized role that I just showed you. These are the only two things that Diego has. And then there are other people, for example, Megan. Megan is a Power Platform admin, so Megan has basically full system administrator as well. But keep in mind the two differences. There's Diego. Diego is the one who I've gone ahead and made sure that the Diego is part of that security group that has access. And then over here, this is the role that I've assigned over there, which has read-write access. On the flip side, Lee doesn't have that role. Lee is basically just the person who has CDS service user over here. So now that you see that, let's actually do some testing. So what I've done to make it easier is I've already put in the link, which is directly in the UAT environment and that app over there. So when I log in now, I'm going to log in to make sure I log in as two persons. First, I'm going to log in as Diego. So let me just make sure that this is, yep, this is Diego. So now when I've logged in as Diego, even though for some reason in Power Apps, Diego is not able to see that environment, which is a UAT environment. And I've noticed that this only happens on the Power App side, because check this out. When I go into the Power Automate, when I come over here on the Power Automate side, when I go over here on the top right, I am able to see the two environments. For some reason on Power Apps, I'm not able to do that. I don't know, maybe just a temporary glitch or something. But again, it doesn't stop me from using the app, because what I've done is me as the admin or as the maker of that app, I've provided Diego directly to the link to this. So the link to the app. So this app, remember, sits in the UAT, and we're not able to see it over here, but that's not a problem. I just click on the app, and that app opens up. I just want to make sure that it is Diego. So, yep, it is Diego. And now I can go ahead and say live demo testing, here, there, everywhere, 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I can also say, live testing, adding task, and I'll just go and pick any date that I have, start date, end date, submit, go back to the home, and that's the data that I just put in over there. See, Diego has access to that app over there. But one thing that Diego is not able to do is Diego now, and I'll use the flow, the Power Automate as an example. So we've logged in as Diego. Remember, Diego, the way we set up his permissions so granularly using the security roles and also tying it to that the security group, that I was able to make sure Diego only had access to the app. But check this out, that access runs all the way, because all Diego can do right now in this environment is only work with that entity over here. And I'll prove that to you. In flow over here, when I come into my flows, and I'm going to go ahead and say create a flow, I'm going to create a, this is a good example, instant flow. I'm saying testing, and I create that. And let's see, something easy one is I'll just do a quick compose over here. I'll drop in compose, and in compose I'll just say take the city from that. And when I try to click save, and I was actually in the wrong one. I should be in UAT. So let me go to UAT and do that again, because we know that in the Contos in the default, everybody is a maker over there. We know that this granular permission is specifically for that new environment. So let me do that again. I'll come over here to create, go back to that instant flow, making sure I'm in the correct environment. Yes, I am. Come on, test. I'm doing this just to prove a point. Compose, there, capacity. I click on save and watch what happens over here. It says access to the environment to create the Power Automate, but the flow is denied. And this is a really good sign that the permissions that you've set up are working, because Diego only has access to use that app. And we proved that the permissions over there was not just for the apps, but that was for Power Apps, but that was for Power Automate. Same thing happens on the Power App side too. Diego cannot build any apps. Diego cannot build any cannot build any entities over there. Diego, all he can do is see the connectors over there, and he can't even go ahead and do anything to the connectors because they're tied directly to that name over there. Nothing big to be concerned about. And that permission gets carried away to the flow set as well. One thing I do want to pause and tell you is that some of you may have been thinking, because I kind of got confused as well when I was first building this, is that, well, Daniel, I saw you do two things. I saw that you had to first put Diego into two security groups. One was for the environment level, which is great. Diego has access to the environment. And then you went ahead and gave Diego access to that security group tied to that app. But then why did you also have to go and add into the security role? The reason you have to do that is because the security role will not work until and unless Diego has access to the app. That's just the only way. And if you can try it too, is if you haven't assigned Diego to that app, either directly or if that security role, when you go in, to that security group, if you try to add Diego as a security role tied to that app, it won't work. It'll just, kind of say it is adding, and it doesn't work. So this combination that I've shown you, and even though what I just said, 10 seconds ago may be confusing, what you need to remember is that you need to set it up. If you are going to set it up at this granular level, like I did, permissions to this environment, permission to the app, do it this way. Set it up as two security groups. Make sure that your users are part of the two security groups. Then go ahead and create a security role and then add your users to that security role. Right now, as we stand, you cannot add a group to that security role. You can only do it manually one at a time. So we'll see in the future if they change that. But when you're adding users to that security role, it has to be only done one at a time over there. All right, and I'm sure there might be, we might come up with some PowerShell ways, or there might be some faster ways to do in bulk. Right now, it's one at a time over there. But I don't want to, get too confused on that. I just want to focus on purely on the security piece over there, which was, once again, I created the Office 365 groups, brought it down to that same permission, tied down to the app. And then as far as writing data to just to that app and to that CDS entity over there, I went in and created that security role over there. How the security role works and how I went and did that, I'll keep that for a separate video altogether, because I'll deep dive more into that. But in this case, I've successfully proved to you that this is how granular the permissions were. Okay, so let's now jump to point number 5, which is know your capacity. And I kind of talked about that, because in knowing your capacity, or your capacity planning, is one of the reasons why you want to not give everybody access to the app, to the ability to create environments. So knowing your capacity actually helps you for feature planning. It also helps you in DLP, because immediately you went ahead and created your DLP, and then that now users are not able to go ahead and populate and fill up all those, utilize all the capacity for your apps over there or your CDS entities over there. It really helps you with that DLP planning over there, because now, you should not have any other environments which may have any other connectors, and then you may not want to go ahead and say, okay, now this environment have these other connectors. Should I go ahead and create any more DLPs specifically for the environment? Remember that communications department, or for the social networking I just talked about? Well, it'll just not work over here. So it helps you for these two things, and then knowing your capacity, and then which helps you in the future planning. So where exactly is this knowing? How I can go ahead and figure out what this capacity planning is. So it's actually pretty simple. You might have even caught it. I went over here, went to the settings, clicked on the admin center. It took me over here. In the analytics, when I click on capacity, it directly takes me over here. So there are these 3 places. Right now, if you don't already know, when you're going ahead and building a environment, it'll go ahead and consume 1 gig of your capacity over here, which is, right now I've got 10 gigabytes capacity available for my tenant. Remember, I have got the default one and I've got the UAT one, which means I've already consumed 2 gigs, and that's exactly what we are seeing over here. Then it also tells me that I have 20 gigs for all the files that I want to put in, and also for the logs that it's collecting. I've got that much capacity. So I've got some space to work with. But then this is my responsibility as the Power Apps admin, is that I need to know what my capacity is, because then I can help with future planning. And now I know that I only have enough capacity to create only 8 more environments. So I got to plan carefully based on all of this information over there. So again, keep that in mind, because you as the Power Apps or the Power Platform admin are responsible for this over there. And then now that I know I only have these, 2 environments over there, that just even helps for DLP planning in the future, because then I know environments and DLPs over there kind of go hand in hand. Okay, now I'm going to switch gears and talk about other security things. And the other security things is the disabling of the self-service feature over here. Now, I know sometimes this can be a touchy topic. Consulting companies can sometimes frown upon me. They can frown upon this topic of disabling the self-services. They can even frown upon me over here. Again, this is not about taking away all the tools and features from the Power users. This is not about that. What this is about to do is that make sure it does not affect it makes sure that it helps in maintaining licenses. Because what happens is, let me back up and say that the self-service says that if you are a user, in your company, and you have not been given that license, a Power Apps license, you can now go ahead and using your own credit card, buy your own license, and that's why it's called as self-service functionality. And this would actually work great for other companies, especially those companies which there are sub companies which fall under a bigger umbrella. Then those sub companies, they could go ahead, for all their users, go ahead and buy these licenses, and that works really well for them. So there are scenarios where self-service is perfect, and go ahead and use that. Kudos for them to go ahead and use that opportunity. But if you are a company where you're already managing all your licenses, you have a technology account manager or a TAM, and you're negotiating licenses with them, this can come as a problem over there, because now you've got 2 sets of licenses to worry about. You've got the ones that you bought as a company, and then you got the ones that the users have, and then you have to make sure that you're all communicating with each other, combining the licenses, figure out how you can do that so they all combine together, and then make sure with these large sets of licenses, then you get a better deal. There's a lot of manual work involved when you're allowing self-service over there. So do what's best for your company. What I'm going to show is that there is a way through the PowerShell script to go ahead and disable the self-service. But rest assured for the Power Platform admins that don't let this alarm you too much. Think, oh my goodness, now people can go ahead and create their own environments, which means they will go ahead and start taking information from my company, create flows, save it in their own things. That's not going to happen, because if you've got your DLP set up just like the way I showed up over here, if you've got your DLP set up over here, then that DLP supersedes all these other licenses that they have. Because if a user went ahead and got his or her own environment, that environment still falls under the umbrella of the DLP that you set up over here. So don't be too concerned about this. Just think about it from a standpoint of that in a company. I said that it's a large umbrella, and then subsections can use their own DLPs. Own licenses. That's another scenario over there. And then rest assured, whether you use it or not, it has to abide by the DLP over there. So what I'm going to do is, for this one, I'm not going to run the DLP script. I'll actually put in the description down there. I'll give you the link to where you can go ahead and get all this information. In fact, I may already have it available. Let me see quickly. Yep, right here. This is the link that I'm going to provide, and what it does is it goes ahead and leverages the PowerShell gallery, and it uses the MS Commerce PowerShell module. And that's basically what I did. I went ahead and installed the module. Remember, you will need local administrative access on your laptop to do this. And then after you've installed it, you go ahead and connect it, and then you run these series of PowerShell scripts. And that's basically what I did. Right over here, I ran the series, installed the module, connected it with that, used my credentials. It actually very specifically states that you need to have a global admin level access, Office 365 global admin level access, to do this work over here. And then the final one went ahead and disabled the Power Platform self-service certificate over there. Again, it is very easy, very straightforward. And what I'm doing is something which works in the best interest of your company. If you don't want the self-service option, there's a way to disable it. But if you do want it, then you can keep it as it is. And then remember, it's still the new environments also have to abide by that DLP that you set up. So it's not too concerning over there. Okay, so I've hit 6 important things, but the last is definitely not the least. And the last one in this case is about free tools that are available. And everybody loves free tools, right? Anything that is free is definitely great. And these are some really slick tools that I've used over here. I myself have used them. So first of them is the Admin Center Analytics. The ones that we just saw over here. It is available out of the box. In fact, if you're an admin, you can go over there and you can see all the analytics. The one I just showed you about was the DLP side over there. I mean, for the CDS side. But it shows you all the other analytics as well. How many apps were created? Is it a mobile app? What devices were used? All those analytics are available out of the box, and they are powered by the backend data, which you don't have access to it, but they already have built-in Power BI reports that builds all of that. The second thing is there are some really good admin flows available on Power Automate. So let's actually pause and take a look at that. What I'll do is I'll jump over to Power Automate. Let me see, do I already have it here? Nope, I don't. Go over to Power Automate, and there's some nice templates that you can use for that. So let me go over here, and on the templates I'm going to search for I'll just type in admin, and these ones show up. One of the things I highly recommend is at least get this one, because what it does is you schedule how many times it needs to run. You can schedule it for once a day, once a week. That's completely up to you. But what it does is it gets a list of all the new Power Apps, flows, and connectors, and it gives you that in an email. So this might be actually great even to send it to your managers. So if they are interested in knowing how many new Power Apps have been built, then these are great. It could also be good for all those makers. They might have their own supervisors. Well, the supervisors want to have a copy of that. So this is actually really good. This is already out of the box and available, so you can just literally click on it, go ahead and fill in some information such as may need your tenant information, and after that it just goes ahead and sends that. There is some great email notifications that you also have. Anytime there is a new custom connector created, it'll go ahead. Every time there is a new customer created, this scheduled flow can even send you that information. It can even send all the information about Power Apps and all the environments into a separate location, OneDrive. So what you can do is, using that data which is saved in OneDrive, you can make a aging report out of it to see how there's been some growth. That's another neat one functionality. But basically what I did was I just came over here to the Power Automate, clicked on templates, and in the templates I just typed in admin, and these are all the out-of-the-box ones that are already available. All right. So after that, there are Admin Center, which I talked about admins, the XRM tool, and the Center of Excellence. These are 2 really neat things, and they're also free. So let me talk about the XRM tool first, and then we'll go to the Center of Excellence. So the XRM tool is actually one that I have over here, and major kudos to Todd Baginski. He's the one who actually brought this to my attention. So Todd, if you're listening to this video, thank you so much. I am immediate fan of this free tool over here, and it literally is XRM Tool Box for Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Power Apps Common Data Services. Now, one of the things over here is it connects down to a very specific environment level, and you can do multiple connections. So it's really nothing, you can only do one at a time. It's nothing like that. But what I wanted to do was I logged into that UAT environment that I just talked about, the one which we had the app over there. And one of the things I can see is that in here, remember I said that Diego has access to that app? Well, that's because Diego has this role over there. And I can see it directly on the analytics side, directly on this tool over here. Because now I can, in one central place, I can figure out all the permissions, which really help me understand that. There have also been scenarios where, for whatever reason, all of this information didn't show up on the Power Platform admin, but it shows up clearly over here. And what you can always do is you can just, anytime there's a change that is happening or you're not sure, just click on those load users over there, and it'll show up all the information. So here's just a good example I can show is Diego was able to access the app because in this case, Diego has access to common data service user and the UAT side. Lee was not able to access the app because all Lee has is access to the common data service user, but is not part of this group over there. Therefore, only Diego can access it, but Lee cannot. And in fact, I don't know if I showed that to you, but let me actually jump in and really show, because now that you see it, Diego is part of this group. He was able to add some data, and I showed that data over here. Lee only has common data service, or the CDS user. Lee is not part of this group, so now if I actually get out of this, leave, and I show this is the Diego one, but let me just sign out. This will be a really good test to quickly show how that works. So it's a good idea to sign out. So I'm going to go back over here, log in. Again, it really comes in handy for that tool I just showed as well. And I know I'm kind of jumping around because we were focusing on the XRM side, so don't get too distracted. Coming back over here, refreshing it. Come on, Power Apps, refresh. It's allowing me to use it. Oh, wait. There you go. Sign in. That's what. Okay, come on. Alright, I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to log in as Lee's password. Now remember, based on that thing, only Diego has access to the CDS side, but Lee doesn't. And therefore, even though Lee had access to the environment, Lee doesn't have access to the app. And so this is a proof of how I'm able to make that granular level permission. And this tool directly tells me that Diego has access to common data service and is part of that role. That role gives read, write, create access into that CDS tenant. Lee does have access to that environment over here because I can see we are logged into that environment. Lee is a common data service user, but Lee cannot go ahead and make any entry because he is not part of this group, and that makes the granular level permission successful. I just proved that to you, and thanks to the XRM Tool Box free tool over here, I can prove that to you because this functionality displays the information that I want over here. The other final tool I wanted to talk about was the Center of Excellence. Now, the Center of Excellence is a fantastic product that the Power Apps product group has put that together. Major kudos to the team to do that because it is a fantastic work of art. And what I want to show you really quick is where it is. So I'm going to get that link, get it over here. Actually, I think I already have right there. Center of Excellence. So what they've done is that in the Center of Excellence, they've actually provided a video. But what this tool does is actually a full-blown Power Apps managed solution. So you download the solution and you import that into your Power Platform, and it is able to provide everything from a dashboard side to it's got alerts set up over there. It is going ahead and even pulling in information to see when was the last time the user logged in and how many times the user logged in. It goes into that detail, and it uses a combination of Power BI and model-driven apps. Plus, it's got some flows running in the back end to really even not just get data and store it, but also helps you to create aging report. Really, really great tool. It is free, but there's only one catch to this. It's not really a catch. It's just one thing that you need to do is you need to at least have the per app plan or per user plan, because it is going to create some CDS entities for you, and it is going to go ahead and leverage some of these connectors that it needs. So it's needed for that. So but not all the users need it. You just need one user who's going to run this. That is the user that needs that per app or per user level plan. And then after that, you can go ahead and do that. So I've provided the link to this down in the description over there. Click on that link. There's a really great video. Watch that video because the video actually tells you how this works. And then after that, you can go ahead and download the whole solution. It's actually a zip file, and the zip file has its own guidelines over there. And then you can import that solution into your tenant over here. So hopefully, if you just go back over here, these three, all 7 items that I've covered today, hopefully they have been helpful. We covered all of these things, and I know some of them I didn't deep dive too much into it. I can already tell that a lot of you may actually put in my YouTube comments that you want me to deep dive into the security groups and security roles, and I do. I plan on doing this. If Todd Baginski doesn't do that, because he had planned on doing that, if he doesn't do it, I'll for sure do it. Again, if Todd Baginski is not going to blog on that XRM tool, I'll surely do it, or him and I might just get together. Todd, if you're interested, let me know. We'll get together on that. But these are the 7 things, and I put them in very specific order because as a recap, the first thing you need to do is set up that DLP in your tenant over there. You've got to do that. You can go ahead and then after that set up the access however you want, take away all the environment creation, both for production and test, or you can keep the test. It's your call. Office 360, the combination of Office 365 security groups and the security roles works really well to create that granular level permissions over there. Know your capacity, because it's important. You as a Power Apps admin are responsible for that. So you need to know where to go in the analytics and keep track of your capacity over there. Disabling the self-service, again, it is completely up to you and depend on the type of environment and the scenarios you work. But if you want to, I showed you how, plus there's the link of that over there. And then I showed you these 4 really sweet tools that are available over there, including the Center of Excellence and the XRM tool. So hopefully this was helpful. And as always, keep power apping, or in this case, keep going live with your use and everyday use of the Power Automate and the Power platform. So